Okay, so we're going to go into the top view or the front view. Let's go to the front view. Let's switch it up. I'm going to create a vase like I did last week, or a Coke can, or whatever you want. It doesn't really make a difference. Let's go Coke can. I'm just going to thumb suck it. Lines help you create custom shapes. There's rectangles. All the rectangle does is create a rectangle and you can round the corners. Circle, circle. Ellipse is literally a squashed circle. And arc helps you create a corner arc. Donut is a donut. N-gon, and the list is the same. I'm going to show you how to cut things out with splines and how to lathe objects. So let's go and start off with our Coke can. Let's create the top. I'm not going to do the top cutout detail. I'm just going to do the little lip. So let's do that. Hold it down to create the curve. You'll notice I'm still holding left click. The moment you're happy with it, let go of it, and the curve is done. I'm going to run it up a little bit, run it over, so I can create that little edge. Shift will keep it dead straight, horizontally or vertically. I'm going to create the bottom. This is going to be the weirdest Coke can ever, but we'll go with it. I'm going to create the other edge. Hold left to create the curve, and go straight to the bottom. Let's finish off our Coke can. Just give it a bit more curve so it's not so straight. There. Just hold left click to create the curve. That's all you really need to do. Hold it, let go. I'm going to bring it straight to the center. I know it won't lathe around the second. If anyone did woodwork, lathing means it will. You sat there on the machine with the tool and try to get a perfectly round shape, creating a bevel. That's what we're going to do now. At the moment, if we add the lathe, it will rotate and lathe around this funny little axis, which is not exactly what I want, but it's not the end of the world, so don't freak out. I'm going to move it straight to the floor. So it's not going to be the best looking can, but we can go with it. Let's say you got your profile. If you're going to lathe anything, look at an object from the side and go, and if it's perfectly round, and go, what creates the profile? What creates that shape? Then go to your modifier tab and type in LATH on the drop down menu. It'll bring up lathe. At the moment, this is not at all what I want. It's pretty, but it's not what I want. There are options down here. You can flip the axes, which way you want to rotate. I still want it in the Y, but I just need it to be going around the proper pivot. So you can click minimum, which is not what you want. Center is not what you want either. Maximum is more what you want, but it's a little bit broken. But it is going around the center. So if you need to alter this and say, this is the fattest Coke can ever, you need to bring the sides in a little bit. So go back to your lines. Now in your line editing tool, if you press 1, 2, or 3 on the keyboard, or you click the icons under selection. 1 will give you vertices, so you can select verts and move them around. 2, you can select edges. 3, you select the whole shape, literally the whole shape that it's made up of. In this case, we want the actual verts. So you can press 1 on your keyboard or actually click. Yellow means it's selected. Drag and select the ones you want to move in, and just slightly grab along the X, and then go see if it looks fine. That's still too fat. Just keep dragging it in until you get the shape you want. That's okay. There, and we're done. Now for me, it's a little too low poly around the edges. I want it. You just go to your lathe option, say, okay, it's got 16 segments, set it to 24 or 36, however round you want this baby to look. Reference, people. This is a prime example. Okay. Splines 01. And that is how you create it. You basically create this side cutout. It is that simple. Look at an object, whether it's a coffee cup or a mug, and say, what creates that shape from the side? If I had to cut that thing down in half, what am I looking at? And create that shape. Whether it's a coffee mug, which will probably look more like flat, up, round around the top, round again, back down, slightly round, back at the bottom, and straight there. That will be your coffee mug base shape. Then you just put lathe on it. I've got these buttons here. You will not have them. How you turn them on is under this little tab over here at the bottom of this empty block. There's a configure modify set. I turn them on. Yours will be off. Just say show buttons. I've set up my buttons for the lesson. You can go and say configure. Everything you can configure. Say configure and add what you want. Drag it from the left view and drag it onto there. If you want bevel, put bevel there. Drag and drop. There's bevel. Done. If you want whatever you want, just add it in. You'll notice through time that you use a lot of certain things. Create a little folder for yourself and say, this is mine, this is what I'm going to do. I've put lathe there. As you can see, it's broken again because the pivot's in the wrong place. Click on max again, it'll just go to the maximum of the object. You already got a shape. You can create almost anything round quickly and painlessly. Let's turn on the lathe for that one. So create the side profile. The lathe will create the actual shape. You may give it the roundness. Let's move it out of the way. That's one way to use splines. Or you can go and model it, but whichever works for you. Here's a line. I'm going to create a rectangle. I want to cut something out of a rectangle. So I'm going to create this beautiful rectangle. Maybe round off the corners because it's too straight. I never like anything that straight. So I'm going to go to the corner radius and say, let's make it nice and round. Maybe make it a little bit more. Cool. I'll have some text at the bottom and maybe cut out a circle at the top. So once again, just create another shape. Let's put that one nice in the corner there. I'm going to have some text at the bottom, so just click on the text. Let's leave it saying max. The scale is there. All your attributes are there, so just scale it down. I'm going to put that there. At the moment, it's just lines. In order to make this literally cut out of it, grab the one that's on the outside, only for your own sanity. You can grab any of them. I like to pick the one that encompasses all of it. Right click on it. If you're going to edit anything, you convert it to a spline or an editable poly. You will not use an editable mesh or a deformable G-poly unless you're doing gaming, or an editable patch or NURBS anymore. Those are two outdated. The two you will be using is spline for lines. Think of it as spline is just literally an SP line. That's what it actually used to be before. Now we call them splines. It's just an SP line. So if you need to edit a line, think of it as a spline. To attach objects, you go under any geometry tab on any of these on the right here. You got your rendering tab. You got your interpolation tab, which means it adds more detail to the sides. If I set it to 0, it will be a stop sign. If I click it up, it'll get round and round and round and round. Eventually, it gets so nice and round. And if you're going to do splines, make sure it is nice and round, because that's the final product you're going to see. You're not going to be able to manipulate it afterwards. It is done. You can't do anything fancy with it. Then you got your selection, where you can manipulate your points again, whether it's a vertex, which is 1. 2 will be your edges, so you can select your edge and move it. 3 will be the entire line. Okay, so we don't need to select 1, 2, or 3, so just turn it off. You need to go to the geometry tab, so let's close down the selection tab, interpolation. Under your geometry tab is anything, whether you attach, detach, create a line, whatever you're going to do to the object will be done under your geometry tab. You just need to attach 2 objects. So click the attach. An icon will pop up with 2 little circles on one side with arrows pointing to the other one. Circles on the other side. That means you've selected an object you can attach. They've all turned white. That means you've successfully attached it. Yet it's still lines. And you go, but I want to see prettiness. Now go to your modify tab and type extrude. Now you have to just adjust the amount, the thickness. And there you go. We've got a nice little word, max cutout and circle cutout. You can do that with as many shapes as you want. That is one way to do it. There's multiple ways to do this, but that is one way to do it. Let's say you really need to do a complicated shape. So let's go and start with, now we're going to switch from, let's keep it a rectangle as well. Once again, round off the edges. There we go, make it nice. This time I'm going to keep it, extrude it, and make sure it's centered. So right click on the arrows, up and down arrow will center it out. Let's give it some thickness, but let's make it quite substantial. And let's say you, by mistake, converted it to a poly. The moment you convert, everything will eventually be a poly. What a poly is that you get different control tools. It looks almost similar to the spline, except for now you've got verts, so you can select verts and move those up. Whatever you need to do. You can select edges, which is 2, or you can click the little edge tool, grab an edge and move the whole thing down. Or you can grab faces, which is literally each face. What makes a quad makes it a 4-side. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it is cut down the middle, it is a triangle. That is great for gaming, terrible for professional commercial work. The reason why it's good for gaming is gaming engines like working the shading on a triangle surface, not a quadrified surface. So I'm just going to quickly do that. Oops, it is. Okay. Another reason why I don't like using splines as a final product is because there's no detail on the top. But let's say you made this mistake and you say, I want to cut out a hole. Simple enough as going to your geometry tab and say, I want to create a cylinder. I want to cut out the cylinder in the middle. Oh, and I still want to cut out a sphere over there. But I don't want it to totally cut out the whole thing. I want to just cut out that corner. But make sure, whatever you're cutting through, if you want the cylinder to cut through the object, make sure it goes through the object. Think of this as a cookie cutter. These are your little cutting things that you're going to cut out of the object. This is your final object. Make sure it's a decent smooth. So go to your soft selection. You say, no, that's actually decent. If you need to cut out, it's called boolean. You go under your create tab. You've got your standard primitives, which we ran through last week. You've got your extended primitives, which is your capsules, your chamfer boxes, and the list goes on. Under your compound objects, if you need to cookie cut something, and you've got something complicated and you really don't want to sit there and take the time to model it to its finest, beautiful degree, and you've got 5 minutes to make it in, go to Pro Boolean. It says start picking. What that means is, what do you want to cut out of that object? So you say, okay, I want to cut out that. Oh, cool. I want to cut out that. Ooh, what would also be cool is if I had little spheres cut out of it, for example. So you go back and you create little spheres. So I want to cut out little spheres, just the bottom half. So you say I want to cut out just that bit. But I want it to go all the way around, so you go, I'm not going to be accurate with these. I'm just going to go crazy so you can see the power of booleaning. And yet it's also a downside. Everything's got a downside if it's done relatively quickly. And you say that's what I want, then you still got the Boolean tool selected, just start clicking. And now you've got little holes cut out of there as well. Okay, here we go. That's Booleaning and cutting out a shape. You can do the normal Boolean tool. You'll notice that under your compound object, you've got a Boolean. Please don't use the Boolean, it's very primitive. Use the Pro one. It'll try to cut it up as best as possible without making it look ugly. Let's go back to shapes. And let's say you're doing more of a complicated shape. Let's say you're doing a calculator and you really don't want to go and cut out the holes manually. So you start off with, this is my calculator. I want buttons over here. But they must be nice round buttons. So you say, I want them to be nice round buttons. And I want 3 of them across. And I want a couple of rows up. Please use your reference. I'm just thumb sucking here. And this is, you're happy with it, you say this is what I want. I'm going to duplicate these ones because they can also be your buttons. So I'm going to just duplicate and say, cool, I'm just going to hide you guys for now. Always grab the outside one. It's the same as cutting out the text. Say, I'm happy with this. Say convert to spline, an SP line. Attach it. Now you manually go and attach it. I like to attach them so then I know what I'm attaching. You can go and attach multiples and then it'll give you a list and you select all, whatever, if you name them. And an extrude. That's way too thick for my calculator. Now, if I unhide all again, I'll have my little buttons in. I'm just going to, right clicking will bring up options to hide, freeze. I'm just going to hide this selection so I can concentrate on this. Now I'm going to teach you one little thing that is cool. I've got my little button. You don't want it to fit perfectly inside of the, you want it to have a little bit of movement, a gap on the side. So convert it to a spline. Go to your selection tools, not your geometry, but your selection tab. Just drag select. That's what you need to do. It's the same as any other package you've ever used before. Drag and select and bring it down. Slide it down, just give it a little bit of a gap. And select. The easier way would have done the radius, but I want to show you the controlling the options of the splines. Once again, bring it up. Think of how you'd make this in real life, and in 3D, chances are that's exactly how you make it. Now we've got that little bit of space around it. It's quite nice. Awesome. Now we need to give it some thickness too, so we'll just add an extrude. Push it up slightly so your button has some shape. But you want the edge to be a little bit round. So now you have to convert it to a poly. Now you can't keep it as a spline. But you need to make sure the detail's at least decent around the edges, because the moment you collapse it, it is done. So you go for say convert to poly. double click, or if that doesn't work, select all of it, Control A, just deselect down the middle, because all you really want is the outer edge. As you can see, it's got the top and the bottom. All you want to do is slightly fillet it or chamfer around the edges so it's not dead straight, because that's very boring. Click the little, next to every tool, under your edit edges tool, you got extrude, chamfer, bridge. I'll show you what they all do. I'm going to start by clicking on chamfering. Click on the settings tab next to it. It's a lot easier to control. This way you can slide and go, okay, that's too much. Then you can just click more incrementally and say, that's actually quite nice. And then you make the mistake I'm about to go and go, oh, that's pretty. And then you go, oh, crap, I didn't. That's all gone. Don't worry. You've got open vertices, so you can move vert. 2 is edges, 3 is open edges. What that means is if there's an open edge, it will select it. So you can see right through this mesh, that means there's an open edge. Now the power of bridging is if I grab, let's say, this edge and I say I want to close that off. Click on bridge, it'll close it off. But if you're really lazy like me, you want to select the top one and the bottom one and say bridge, it'll close the whole thing off. Or if you by mistake delete the top and it disappears, you go, again. Grab the top one, open edge again, and click cap. It'll just cap it off. Okay. But if you really want to add more intricate details, Shift will duplicate whether you're in the poly mode or in the spline mode or just geometry. So let's say if you want to duplicate this button, hold Shift, it will duplicate it. If you want to actually go and model with it, so let's say we grab the top one. If you by mistake press, let's say, scale while holding Shift, it will actually duplicate those faces. And if you by mistake hold Shift again, it will do it again. Just keep holding Shift. You're already holding whatever this is. A funky little button. There you go. And then you can cap it off. And I've just created a pyramid button. There we go. And if you're happy with this button, you can go duplicate across. So hold it Shift and say, I want 2 across. Make sure they're an instance. What that means is if you repair one, if you made a mistake and you fix one, it'll fix all of them along the chain. And I'll give you an example of what it does. Let's say you're happy with it and you say, but I want this corner to be in. It will adjust all of them along the timeline or across the whole family. And that's why you keep them as instances. Okay, I'm going to just drag them again and create them as instances all the time. There we go. Make sure they're instance, not reference. Reference is more, you have to actually tell the parent to tell the child what to do, which is a very slow process. Rather just tell the child or tell the parent, and they each get it in their own way. And there we go, I've got my little funky buttons. And you got the screen. And then you can start cutting out the screen any way you want. Okay. There we go. We are combining spline with actual polymodeling. If you're modeling a car, for example, you will not be using splines. So please don't even waste your time. You will go insane trying to figure that out. You will start with, let's say you're going to do the bonnet. Break up the car into the panels that it's actually made up. Most cars are, you got your bonnet, one panel, your fender will be another panel, your bumper will be a panel, your door will be a panel, your back door will be another panel, and start thinking of it in those terms. So you'll start off with literally a panel. So you'll go and say standard, I want to start from blank. But luckily enough, cars are perfectly symmetrical, so I'm going to make sure everything's dead center. I'm going to start creating my hood. This is too much detail, but I'll leave it. I'll say convert to poly. I'm going to go to polygon mode. That means you'll press 4 on your keyboard or just click the button over here. Drag and select 1/2 and delete it. So you're only doing 1/2. Click on symmetry. Drop down SYM and flip. And now you can actually see both sides at the same time. Okay. And you'll start shifting it. This is my bonnet. It should actually get smaller towards the front. And now here comes the trick to when modeling in 3D. It's actually in 3D. So you might have your bonnet looking beautiful on the top. So let's say my bonnet's looking awesome. I'll bring it down a little bit to the front. So we have the window. That's a beautiful thing I've ever seen. And now it's dead flat. Unfortunately, okay, the left viewport's broken. Sorry. I don't know why, but it is. So what I'm going to do now is just grab all these edges. So drag and select everything from the nose. Let's say I want this to be at the front and I want it to be flat. Leave those. Drag everything else. Move it up. Hold Alt to deselect. Move it up. Hold Alt to deselect. Move it up. You start getting the shape of the body. Say cool. But I think the edge sides should come down a little bit. So just bring it down. Don't bring the front one. The front is generally flat. Just select the whole queue and just deselect the front one. Bring it down. That's okay. The middle maybe should be slightly raised up. Then you already start getting in and you say, okay, cool. Now my best advice to anybody, please work out just the basic shapes first. Don't go and start detailing in the trimming and all that. No, just do the basic shapes. Cover the bonnet, then do the fender, then go and worry about, oh, but there's a hole cut out in the fender. Yeah, don't worry about the hole. And then to make it look nice and smooth, because right now it's very low poly, add a turbo smooth. That will just make it smoother for you. That would be my whatever car I'm making. Whatever it might be. That will be my bonnet. Then you'll start off and create the fender off the side. And you'll just start creating it with different shapes. So you'll start with the black flat shape and create everything out of it. Same way as you do the human body, you start with one poly and you work your way out. Don't get discouraged at what you're creating. Just think small. Think everything is a shape. Don't think about the whole. Or I'm going to sound like a fine arts lecturer. Think of the negative spaces. Because that's technically what you're looking at. Okay, let's go and start my little project. This time I'm going to try something new. I'm not going to go with the watch. I can't do it anymore. My folder, my refs folder. I had the little watch, but I can't do the watch anymore, so I apologize. So I'm switching to something else. Let's do a little turntable. I've put a front and top on the same image for me, so I know what the back looks like and the top looks like. If you're going to do a car, you will have front, back, left, right. You will need all of those in order to model the car. Otherwise, your car will look nothing like what you want. The point of this exercise is not how complicated your object is, but how accurate the object is. It's to train your eye to see and copy. Because a lot of people they think they know what they're looking at. Then they just go crazy and model and then come back and realize that everything's totally wrong. The key is to just see what you're doing and recreate it. Don't think, just copy. It's to teach you the tools. I don't want you to have to worry about stylization or any of that crap in the process. So what we're going to create is a image plane in the viewport. So you have, because I don't have two monitors, I have to do it this way. Image plane in the viewport to throw my picture onto it. So go to the top view or front view, depending what yours. Mine is mainly at top, as you can see. So I'm going to go to the top view, create an image plane under your standard primitives. Now I'm just going to drag it and create it. I'm going to get rid of all the details, just an image plane. And according to this, it's 1034 width. So and I'm going to go and it's 1672 height. Hopefully I'm doing it in the right direction. 1672 height. I did it. Okay, now we're going to center it to the world because everything needs to be centered because I can actually symmetry most of it. So right click and make sure it's centered. And now we've got a beautiful little image plane and I'm going to call it ref plane. And I'm going to save my folder. And I'm going to save it. Once again, I'm going to make sure I've set my actual working folder so I don't save it to the lesson folder. So just make sure always, when you come in, go and set your project. In this case, I'm going to set it to Carlos. And it might not register it, but it did. That's enough. Right here, class 3, class 2. Okay, and I'm going to throw the image onto it. Since Max 2012, luckily enough, they added this in. You can just drag and drop it onto your image. Don't, by mistake, drag and drop it into your viewport. So then it's not going to help anybody. Alt-B, if you by mistake did that, Alt-B will bring up your basic background controls. You just click and say use customize user interface gradient colors. Now if I freeze this, because you want it frozen so you don't by mistake select it and move it off to the moon, right click on it and say freeze. But unfortunately by default, when you freeze something it goes gray, so then you know it's frozen. But for this kind of exercise you want to be able to see the picture. So go under properties, right click, object properties. It's under clone and above curve editor. Right click will bring up a lot of options. So go under your object properties and says show frozen in gray. And that's ticked. You don't want that ticked. Click it off and say freeze. There we go. But now I want to cut my image up to so I can have my back actually facing the back, and so I don't have to worry about if it's the right view. So I just have to add a row of details. So I'm going to convert it to a poly. I'm going to grab edges. Grab the horizontal edges. You'll notice you can grab them and just connect it once. Now if I just drag this, it will squash and stretch my image. If you go under edit geometry, preserve UVs, it will just store the UVs so you can just move it along without having to worry if you're breaking it. I'm going to call this ref plane underscore top. Then I'm going to duplicate it and call it back. So I know if I forget I've got a back and a top. I'm just going to delete now. I'm going to go to poly mode, press 4 on the keyboard, or click the polygon mode. I'm going to delete. This one says back, so I'm going to delete the top view. I'm going to select the other image, which says top. Select poly mode, or press 4, or press the button and delete the back. At the moment, they both share the same pivot. What that means is the control node. So you can see this one is not exactly in the center of that object we would like it to be. So just drag and select both of them. Go to what looks like a little server hierarchy system. Click on that tab, click Effect Pivot, and set to Object. Make sure this goes back to dark gray. And now we're just going to have to rotate the image to the front. Now there's two ways of snapping in Max. You can snap to, if you click your three with a little magnet, will give you choices to snap to. If you right click on it, you'll notice it will bring up a whole bunch of settings. Please don't fiddle with options, home grid, or user grids, because if you do and you set yours up and it goes to another Max user who's going to set it up, he might not be happy. So just leave those. You can select the vertex or edge or face. If you want to snap to faces, you can snap to faces. If you've got a rivet and you want to share it, put it over your armor, but it has to be in the center of every single face. You select face and you select midpoint. Okay, but you'll get the hang of it. At the moment, we'll be just using vertex. So we'll select those. That will snap to vertex. What we want here is to rotate snap. So right next to it is angle snap toggle. It'll snap by 5 degrees. You can right click again and adjust it. Leave it as it is. 5 degrees is more than enough. I'm just going to snap it. I'm going to go on the yellow and rotate it until it's 90. There it is. Go to my front view. In this case, my front view is broken. And bring it up. Just bring it above the ground. And bring it close. And now we've got the front and the top set up. I'm going to freeze it now so I don't have to touch it. Okay. Now I can't by mistake grab it. None of that. Now I'm going to show you the quick way to do it, and then I'm going to show you the right way. Technically it's not a right and wrong, it's just which one in the long run will actually be easier to work with. It might take longer, but it will be easier to work with. When you take string or you're going to animate it, it'll be easier to animate something that's modeled from. So we're going to start with the screen. There we go. That will be literally, I'm going to start setting out guidelines. Looks like I by mistake squashed my image, so I'll just have to improvise that one. I'm going to quickly just create thumbs like the rest. I'm not going to worry. I like to create guidelines. The same as if you're drawing, you want to create a guideline, especially if you're doing a technical drawing. That's what we're going to do. We're going to use splines as our guidelines. Wow. Okay. So now you go to your shapes, and I'm going to create the big shape first. Always start with the big shapes. Let's create that shape. There we go. I'm going to bring it about over there. It looks like it's got a nice round corner. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to set it to a nice round corner. Just give it a nice round corner. Just remember, this is shot in perspective, so try to keep with one side or the other. You can't win and get both working. So in this case, I'm just going to stick with the top. Move it back into place. Now you've created your outside shell. Now we have to create shapes for the rest of the buttons. As you can tell, this is quite a nice hexagon, so it's actually a very simple shape there. The rest seems like nice round buttons, and that I don't think needs to be cut out at all, so you don't even have to put detail for that. So let's start off by creating the buttons. Once again, create a rectangle, draw it on, and those look relatively, it looks like there's a bit of a round edge, so we'll do that. So let's round it off, but it's just subtle. Hold shift to create it. These are not identical, so please don't make sure they're not instants, because if they're not going to be identical. Those are going to be identical, but not those two. Or maybe they should. Yeah, let's go with it. Okay, and now let's just adjust the height, fix it in, slightly over, create an instance. Because now I can affect one and they will all be the same. Hold shift again, just keep going through until you're done. Can't read this text, so when it comes down to actually doing the text, everything will be geometry because I'm not doing texture labels. So all the text will be geometry. So it'll just be a good exercise for me to add all of it, even the screen, all of it will be text. Okay, now that I'm done, I'm happy with it. I say, okay, it's angled, I can't do anything about that. Let's create the rest of the buttons. Just hold shift and create this one. Don't create an instance because this button's a lot wider than the previous one. So just drag it across, say I want to make a copy. Hold shift will copy all the time, whether you're in edit mode, whether you're in this case spline mode, it will. Let's make it the same thickness. Now we're going to drag it across the top. If we're lucky, we could probably say I want to make 3 copies across and go 1, 2, 3, and it should perfectly line up. But that's not the case. Manually go and say, okay, there we go. Now that one looks like it's another rectangle, but a very rounded corner. So we're going to take this and say it's about that big. Let's round that corner off. So play with the corner until you get the roundness you're looking for. It's a little bit too big compared to the. But seeing that we're making the outside, we should go to the white pixels. So let's just go to those white pixels and the white pixels. Because we can always add the button later. Okay. Now let's do all the rounds. In this case, let's do this little shape. Once again, start with the circle this time. And because it is lower poly than that, just go to your steps and start with nothing. It doesn't look like we're going to get the exact step count we're looking for. So what we might in this case have to do is actually go and draw a line. So create it manually. So go and create it. Copy it. Okay, close it off. Now you've created your shape. It's not the most accurate thing. It's quite ugly, but we'll go with it. Actually, what I think I might do is just try to get it a little more accurate. Okay, hold shift, drag it across. Make sure it's an instance. They're the same again. Now we're going to create this little round one over here. This time we can actually use a cylinder, so let's go and create it. Bring it down. As you can see, we just need more detail. That's all under your interpolation. There's no sides, there's no segments, this is a line. Just click to maybe about 6. Should be fine. Okay, we are done. Now here comes the easy part, and I'm just going to save this as option A. Why I say this is the easy one is because it literally will take you half the time compared to everything else. The other one will take you 4 times as long, and I'll show you both methods so you understand both methods. Now we've got this. Select once again the biggest shape. Okay. And now you need to convert this to a spline because at the moment it is a spline, but it's not an editable spline. It means you can't edit it unless you want to play around with the length, the width, the corner radius. Convert it to editable spline. Now we want to attach all the other little pieces into it. Under your geometry tab, anything you need to do to the geometry is under your geometry tab. Click attach and start attaching. Oh, great. Until all of it's white, then you know you've attached it. Okay, there we go. Now this is the easy part. You're happy with it, extrude. Just give it some thickness and your panel's done. Okay, that's the quick and easy, nasty way. The reason why I don't like this method is if somebody wants to go and actually animate it or unwrap it or do a smoothen it, it'll break. So it's fine. I mean, if you were doing a guitar and you want to cut a hole down the middle, it's perfect for that kind of thing. For this, because not every these little edges are nice and round, you might want to chamfer them, and it's going to be very tricky to get that right. So that's option A. Now I'm going to show you the one that will take a lot longer, but it is definitely worth it. Okay, so now we're back to the splines again. Now this time, all I'm doing is using it as a guide. So I need to go to its lowest version, so I'm going to go to interpolate and say, that's fine. Just try to get it as low as possible. For this, I'll go down to it and say, that will be fine. Same with this one. Don't need so much detail. You just want to get the shape going. Nah, that will be fine as that. Fine. Just try to get, this is going to be basically your tracing tool, the way you trace and snap things to. It'll be your quickest way to get it done. seems fine. Just need to move my reference down a little bit because unfortunately it's going to block my view of actually working. Just shift it down and freeze it again. Now on the top view, we're going to start with the same method except for this. Instead of a line this time, we're going to start with an actual plane. So we're going to go to your geometry tab, start the plane, make it the same size again. Make it on the outside. It doesn't have to be accurate once again because we're going to snap it. Okay, cool. There we go. Convert to a poly. And now we're going to have to add 2 rows of detail to get this nice little corner. So you need one line going that way and one line going that way. Okay. First we'll start off by creating the horizontal lines. That'll be fun. That'll be the easiest. Say connect twice. Now you're connecting between 2 lines. You're putting a line going from point A to point B. Now it says, do you want to add 2 lines, 3 lines? You can go crazy and add as many lines as you want. I just want 2. But then I want them spaced apart from each other. So you move the middle slider. If you don't move the middle slider, the bottom slider, there's 3 sliders. The one tells you how many times you want to cut that between the 2 points. The middle one moves it apart from each other. The bottom one moves them up or down. Okay, so we just need to move them up until we get them roughly. I'm not even actually going to add another row of detail. This is actually fine. But we will anyway, just for pure exercise reason. Connect it again, move it up. Now I need to make sure these snap to that guide. Okay. So I'm going to hide unselected. I don't need my picture right now. I just need to know what I'm doing. Press 1 or click on the vertex button. Now we need to snap them. At the moment, nothing will happen. You'll know when it snaps because there will be a big yellow cross. You can either press S on the keyboard, or you can go and press the 3 and the little magnet sign, the snap toggle, on and off. Now I'm going to snap it to there. It'll snap to the vert, don't worry. Okay, in this case, I don't want that to snap to a vert, but we'll get to that now. What I might actually want to do in that case is actually get rid of this line. Let's just undo that, because we don't actually need that row of detail. It's unnecessary. So I'm just going to quickly get rid of that detail and let's carry on the snapping. Let's snap that one to there. So this one will snap to there. That one will snap to there. It starts becoming easier at the moment. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get it the first hour because you're on hour 2 and chances are most of you didn't have the software to play around with it. So really don't beat yourself up. You will get the hang of all of this. It's about repetition. So now we got the nice outlines to shape. So I recommend we start with this side. It's more buttons. What we're actually going to do is add the detailing to be able to cut out the buttons. That is the easiest way I can explain it. So let's start with doing the beautiful little shapes at the bottom. That'll be the easiest. So let's go and say connect once. I only want to connect once. So make sure it's 1 and right click to 0 everything else. Let's move this to dead center of this obviously very badly made shape. Now, if you need to add 2 rows of detail on the top and the bottom and a line down the middle, the easiest way to do that is to take that whole line and go to your chamfer options. So you click on the chamfer settings next to it, and then you'll notice there's a slider to move them apart from each other. And then there's a slider at the bottom which will add detail in the middle between those points. I just want 1 row of detail, so that's all I've. Now we need to run 2 lines on either side. So you drag from top to bottom, and you go and connect. Just connect 1 for now. At the end of the world, we need to bring it to this side now. Now we're going to connect another row to that side. So drag top to bottom again, connect. Now this line is doing some funny things because it's trying to follow that line. In order to fix that, just press R or go to your scale tool and scale, in this case, the x-axis until it's flying. You can see the line is off. The moment I scale it, sorry, let's actually make sure I'm scaling it properly. It'll go perfectly flat. Okay, and then bring it to the other end. Okay. Right now, for this, we're missing another line here and another line there to be able to create these 2 shapes. So we just need to add 2 more rows of detail down the middle. So click on this one and click ring. Look, if any of you are wearing a ring, what goes around your finger is a ring. What goes across is a loop, for the lack of a better explanation. I'll give you an example. If I select this line and say I want to loop it, it'll loop across. If I want to ring it, it'll ring across. So if you wanted to select this whole ring of objects, just click ring. It'll select the whole section, and now you're just going to add 2 points of detail. So we say, I want to cut it twice. So you add 2, and you click the tick, and you're done. Now we're just going to snap it into place, and select the verts. Make sure your snap tools are on. And let's start snapping it to the guides. Go. Keep going. And do the same thing to the other button. This is tediously slow, but it's a lot more accurate when you get down to it, and it'll be easier to texture and to actually animate if you need to animate it. One thing I don't like is that all these little lines go weird skew, so I just like to try straight as best as possible. Just because my eyes don't like looking at skew stuff. There we go. And the same thing. Now you've got that little funny shape cut out. Cool. We're happy with it. To delete and make sure there's a hole, just go to your polygon or press 4 on your keyboard, and Control will keep adding to the selection. Here's the problem that's going to happen right now, is that this is supposed to be that shape. It's not supposed to go round. But if I want to smoothen this and give it a nice smooth, you need a turbo smooth. It's going to go round now. To fix that, you have to actually go and add more detail on the corners to make it detailed. But we're not going to stress too much about that right now. But we can, if let's worry about that. I'm going to fix that by clicking all the edges that make it up. So for example, let's start with the horizontal lines. Let's say I want to do that one. Chamfer it. But you want it to be very close to each other. So zoom as close as possible and click it. Go slow increments. And there you go. And now I'm going to put the smooth back on, and you'll notice now that's actually quite straight. So in order to get those, we have to do the exact same thing to the other two. The easiest way to do it to this one is going and saying ring. So you go and grab an edge and say click ring on it. It'll ring all the way around. And now add a connect. But you only need one line again. Actually, let's just add 2. And now split them apart from each other, as close to the edges as possible. If you want a sharp corner, you need a lot of detail in that corner. So you can't just have 2 edges. It'll try to make it as round as possible. You need a lot of detail in that corner to pull it off. Now we've done it there. Let's do it to the same one. So now we go to the top one here and go ring, connect. But this time I only want one detail. Because it's so far, I have to actually bring it manually down so we get it close. Let's do that again, because I don't like the shapes it's creating. Let's connect it again. This time I'll use this to scroll it down, and hopefully that will create less hiccups. Okay, there we go. Okay, but we might need to move this down manually because it's still too far away. So we'll grab the little control node and move it as close as possible. And now that should be almost to the shape we are looking for. We're getting there. It'll happen. Now we need to do it horizontally, and I'll show you just on the bottom one. So I'll grab the bottom ones here and there and do them at the same time and say connect twice and move it across as close as possible again. And now we're starting to get the shape of the bottom. Okay, I'm sure you're getting the hang. Okay. Now let's actually grab this edge, and we just have to add as much detail in those areas as possible. You really do need to. That's the only downside. Okay, we're already starting to get that shape. I'm not going to sit here and worry too much about that because we still have the rest of it to worry, and that's just sitting on small details. Okay, so now let's do the rest of the shape. We need to add in lines for the tops all the way across. So go ring, connect once. I'm only going to connect once this time. So make sure it's just once. Make sure it's dead straight. Oops, straight. And now bring it to the bottom of that. Yeah. And we're going to start one at a time. So we'll connect that one. Once again, click ring to select all the way around. Connect once. There are shortcut keys. I'm not going to run through the shortcut keys for connect and ring yet. And now in this case, I want to connect twice so we can actually create that shape. So we're going to connect it twice. 1, 2, and spread it apart. all of this will start sinking in. But let's do this one as an example. Now we're going to have snap on again, so make sure your snap is toggled on at the top. And start snapping to the edge. Make sure the vert is red. That's you know you're selecting it. If it's not red, then you know you have not selected it. If it's blue, you're doing nothing. Okay, so just grab that and snap it. It will snap to the nearest vert, so if you've got a lot of verts on screen, that might be problematic, but in this case, it's not really that difficult. I'm going to select it, to deselect delete the middle. I want to see what the smooth is doing now. It's actually quite nice, because I like the rounded edge and corners. I don't want them to be dead straight, not in this case. In that case, yes. In that one, not so much. So now we're going to do the same thing to the rest of the buttons on this row, and the same on the buttons on the other row, and it's just about literally rinse and repeat. So let's do that again. Ring. This time I'm going to do all the rows all at the same time. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in this case, actually 7. So you just add 7 rows of detail. And then you have to double click. Each double click a line will select the whole line in its family tree. There we go. Double click. Double click. And just keep bringing it to the outer edges. Double click. This is a lot slower than the other method, but it's a lot better in the long run. It really is. Learn patience. You're going to be doing character work next module. That requires a lot of patience and accuracy. Now what we need to do is give, once again, horizontal detail for. So just select all of them and then click ring. It'll select all the edges. So you just have to select the edge, first edge of all of them, and click ring. It'll select all of it along the time. And once again, connect twice. This time connect twice and split them apart until it's roughly over the area. It doesn't have to be that 100% accurate because you're going to snap it. Now we're going to snap. Turn on your snap tools. Snap. Snap. Snaps. I like to go far out so I know it's actually going to snap to the vert properly. And then just keep going all the way along there. I'm going to do it all vertically first, then I'll go into the other side and carry on. And I need to add there it goes. I might need more detail. Nah, it's fine. Let's go snap, snap. We'll just have to manually move the others down, so don't worry too much about that one. I'll tackle that one at the end. Just keep snapping them all the way. If you were doing a character like Iron Man, this is the way you'd have to do it. There's no cheating. You can't, because everything at some stage will be cut, dissected, rotated, moved, animated. So you can't afford to have it just booleaned or cut out with just splines. You can have that as a starting point, but that's not how it finishes. Okay, now we just need to move these down. So what we're going to do is adjust the snap. I want to snap the verts, but dead center to the, okay, I want the edges, and I want to be to the center of the edge. So you snap, make sure you don't select, you want to select edges. Just grab those edges. Okay, there we go. Okay, good to go. Now we just start deleting the middle pieces again. Delete. You can switch the red to any color you want as well, just in case you really want to. And now let's put a smooth and see what it looks like. Cool, it's coming along nicely. Okay, those are actually straight, those are round, getting the what we sort of what we're looking for. I'm going to unhide all again and see what else we need to do here. Okay, it looks like we are going to have to cut out a hole for the screen, because it looks like it goes in from the looks of it. So let's just go and do that now before we do anything else. So let's go top to bottom. Drag, connect once. Only once, because we need to figure out, straighten out this line. Straighten it Now we're going to put it on one end and then on the other end. So let's drag this to, looks like it ends over there. Drag and select, connect another time. Make sure it's dead straight again. Okay. Looks like it ends over. Looks like it moves slightly over. Okay. And we'll have to create a line over here just to cut out the screen and create a line at the bottom. So once again, ring, connect only once. Because now we need to get the bottom of the screen, which I think should be about there, should be fine. And we're going to do the same at the top. Ring, connect only once. Looks like that will actually do quite nicely. Okay, I will show you how to extrude that one. Let's continue with the rest of the shapes. Now we need to cut out that and cut out that. Looks like we've got enough detail running almost horizontally perfect. We just need the vertical linings now. So let's go and add that. Drag select, connect once, flatten it out so you don't have these funny shapes. Put it in the middle. And in this case, chamfer it and put a line down the middle. So just space it out a little bit and go and say I want one row of detail down. Once again, ring. We're going to do the next button. Now we're going to connect once, chamfer it. This time we don't want any detail down the middle. We just want this to go to the edges. Looks like we need another bit of detail here. This button looks like it's got a bit too much detail. So let's just select that. Let me select that. I'm going to convert to a spline and just alter this button in the edit mode. I don't need both of these lines. So I'm just going to drag select both of them and weld them. What that means is it makes both points one point. So I'm just going to up this weld limit over here on the right, and click weld, and let's just tweak this now, because we only need, looks like now, another row of detail. So let's first do this one, and let's get it out of the way. I'm going to bring this line down. Now I'm going to keep this line up. So I'm going to take the snap tool and start snapping. I pressed S instead of clicking the button at the top, sorry. There we go, snap. Okay, at the moment it's trying to snap verts and edges, so let's just get rid of everything that I don't need it to do. It's interesting, but it's just slowing me down. Okay, once again, there we go. And this way it'll make it easier for us to understand how much more detail we need in all of it. So, in this case, we can probably do that. Okay, and I like to keep these lines straight again. I don't worry about the line in the middle, it's going to be deleted. It needs to snap properly. Snap properly. Snap. Okay, and then I'm going to press the polygon button. Just delete these polys on the inside for now. Don't need them. These ones you can see distinctly we need a line down the middle. We can't avoid it. So we're going to do that. We're going to say ring. So I'm trying to figure out what it actually affects all the way down to the bottom. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to connect it once. Always make sure you double check where the line follows through, because you don't want it to affect something you just modeled, and then you have to remodel it again. And now once again, toggle snap on and snap that one there. And then polygon mode and delete those. Now you've got the two holes cut out. So now we just need to obviously cut these ones out. So let's just once again snap the first one, so we know how much detail we need. It looks like we actually got the right amount this time, all the way across. So we just need to cut it. Now we need to cut it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So ring. And this time, because it's a bit wobbly on that side, I'm going to still do it once, so we can get this line dead straight to that side first. Do another line to the other side, and then I can connect it between the two. This will become second nature the moment you start modeling. You will learn all these tools very quickly. I'm just going to move it to that edge. Now I just need to add in 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that I know it's straight, that's easy enough. Is going connect, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to snap them all into place. Double click this one. Let's just put it into place before we even start snapping. Go there, there. That's why I like giving myself guides, because it gets less confusing. Because once you start actually having quite a dense mesh, it's a lot easier to have guides with. Okay, let's go snap everything. Once again, go to vert mode, go to your toggle snap tool, and let's start snapping. Okay, let's just quickly fix this edge as well. Just quickly switch to the midpoint edge, so I can just fix that edge. I'll fix all the middle edges on the way back, so it's just easier. Snap, snap, snap. If you're going to do gaming, your snap tools will be your best friend, because every level is made up of assets, whether it be a wall or a door or a hole cut through the floor. Everything needs to snap nicely, because the level builder is not going to have any tolerance to sit there and try to line it up by eye, because that doesn't work. It can work, but chances are he's just going to send it back to you and tell you to fix it properly, make it properly. Snap there, snap there, and then just going to make sure those are snapped nicely. It's off. Snap nicely. Just put it this way, respect these snap tools, because Unity, for whoever's doing the gaming stuff, Unity's got shit snap tools. They really do. I don't know what it is, but whoever programmed it was a blind monkey who would actually never realize what a snap tool does. Okay, and now I'm going to snap the bottom ones into place, and then we're done. Then this panel, besides bringing in the screen, is actually technically done. I'm going to spend another 5 minutes, and then you're going to carry on working. And I'll continue this next week. So let's just deselect the inside here. Deselect the inside. And I want these all to be nice and round, so I don't have to worry about putting too much detail close to the other edge. Nice. Let's just quickly cut out that screen, and then I think we are done. So the screen starts and ends about here. I'm going to select all of it. It's just easier to select all of it, then deselect what you don't want. I think I deselected too much. There we go. In this case, I'm actually going to bevel it down or extrude it downwards, then detach the mesh and make it a separate mesh. So I'm going to click on the extrude option, which will extrude it downwards. You can see I'm already giving it some thickness, so yeah, that seems about right. Now I'm going to make that a separate mesh altogether. It doesn't always have to be the same mesh. So I'm going to go and say detach it, call it screen. So for later purposes, I can have the screen separate. And plus, the screen does not need that much crazy detail. It's easy enough to go and say, okay, I don't need all that detail. So you can select all of it and just deselect all the detail down the middle. Alt, deselect. Control I, backspace, it's gone. Because you don't need all that detail down the middle, ever. Okay. And now my little screen is awesome, but unfortunately it's too round. So we're going to quickly fix that by grabbing this ring, click ring. Now we need to add more detail to the edges again, just to give it that extra little crisp edge. So connect it twice, in this case twice, zoom in and try to get it as close to the edges as possible. And there you go, got a little bit of detail. And it's too round in there, but let's not worry too much about that. It's easy enough as adding detail to in this case, drag it and say connect twice, make it as tight as possible. And now you'll see the difference from this corner's straighter than that one's round. The more detail you add to the corner, the crisper that edge and the sharper it will be. That's just the best way to describe it. There we go. Now we've got our little screen. And the buttons are as simple as grabbing the actual splines you did, extruding it, and your buttons are done. Okay. This is the better way to do it. Okay. Not the way people love to do it, but it is the better way to do it. Okay. Play around, have fun. I'm here